what are the Democrats going to do? Try to impeach him again if they find out he's doing more? That's not going to land well. And this is their one shot. So the president basically can do whatever he wants after he's acquitted between now and the election. And we already know that the Russians have successfully hacked Burisma, and they may start releasing things that they found there on WikiLeaks or through some other platform, and it'll just be the 2016 election all over again. But this time, if the Russians couldn't find anything incriminating on Hunter Biden, they might make something up. And so this could get really crazy. And of course, it could affect the election. We could have 4 more years of Donald Trump because of this. So it's a very serious matter. And you just can't put it past Trump that he won't do it again. I mean, he's proven that he's willing to take foreign assistance, and now he'll have carte blanche to do it once he's acquitted.
Do you think there's a kind of worrying case that could be made for corruption against Joe Biden and Hunter Biden? Because whatever the facts are, there are obviously Republican conspiracy theories, but the facts still remain that he was appointed to this job that is really kind of Washington influence peddling, and Donald Trump could, while still being technically factual, turn around and run the same campaign of, look, Joe Biden's part of the swamp, we're going to drain the swamp, we're going to keep the swamp drained, I guess you could say, with Joe Biden, because he's going to come in and do the same sort of deals that he gave and give favors to his family members and get them paid in sweetheart gigs in natural gas or whatever the industry may be, even though they don't know anything about it.
Yes, he can do that, and that's perfectly fine as far as I'm concerned. That's perfectly valid. That's actually, I think, an obvious criticism of what Hunter Biden is doing. But to take it that next step and to have Ukraine announce an investigation into it, the idea that what he did while he was there was criminal, that aspect of it is just a bridge too far. But yeah, what you just said, that kind of argument, that's fair game.
Yeah, and I think that definitely speaks to the drawbacks of a Biden nomination. But what do you see coming up next in both the impeachment trial and once he does inevitably get acquitted in the Senate?
Well, I don't know. I think that I think what Democrats are hoping for now is that they can sway enough public opinion against Republicans in the Senate so that in the 2020 election, the GOP senators who are running in purple states are going to lose. I think that's really the calculus now. The calculus is not we're going to remove the president, but we're going to win back the Senate.
That's the referendum?
I think that's what they're after at this point, yeah. And that's why they are putting so much pressure on this vote to have witnesses. Because the country in polls says that 70% of the country and even, a majority of Republicans are wanting to see more witnesses. And so this is going to be there's going to be some political backlash from the Senate and from Republicans in the Senate if they don't allow these witnesses. How long that backlash will last, if it'll last right up until people forget. And the trial is 9 months away. I mean, the election is 9 months away. So we don't really know what good it's going to do, but that seems to be their objective at this point.
Mm-hmm. What do you make of these two stories here? We'll also start with this. Mike Pompeo and Mary Louise Kelly, the NPR reporter, after she revealed the Secretary of State berated her with expletives after she asked him about the Ukraine scandal. Trump then chimed in, appearing to threaten to cut off NPR's federal funding. So, like, what do you make of this story? And, like, it does seem like it could be a really scary, like, depending on actually follows in how he follows up with this, about the future of journalism and the way he's going to treat journalism. And also a really crazy, unhinged response by even someone who works for the Trump administration. Like, it doesn't take a lot to shock us, but it seems like it takes a lot more these days to shock us, but that certainly, I think, made the cut for a lot of people.
Yeah, it was a pretty disturbing story. I think more than anything, it shows the intense pressure that Mike Pompeo is under. I mean, this guy has future political ambitions, and he's worried that this job as Secretary of State is going to ruin him politically, and he has to be very careful about what he says. If he lies, or if it looks like he's not telling the whole truth. And I think I heard something along the lines where Pompeo made some kind of an agreement with this NPR reporter before the interview that certain things were out of bounds, and she went into it anyway with this Ukraine stuff and Yovanovitch and so forth. And that's what really ticked Pompeo off, and why he, abruptly finished the interview. But then, why did he have to call her into his office and, shout and scream at her and make her point out Ukraine on a map and all that stuff? That's not good. That's not a good look for the Secretary of State.
Yeah, definitely very, very strange and kind of uncalled for behavior. Like, you don't even see that from people in the Trump administration. That's kind of why I think it was so shocking. That's all the time we have for today's show, Glenn. Thank you so much for coming on and providing some light to this impeachment story. Personally, I mean, I don't know where it's going to end up. I don't know what real impact it's going to have other than kind of like making a statement, but I'm so glad that we do have you here to help break this stuff down. Really appreciate you coming on.
Thanks, Spencer.
All right, that's all the time we have for today's episode of Newsflash. We will be back with the last episode of Season 2 of Red Alert Monday night at 11 p.m.